You've been with him for 8 years. But he gave all his tenderness to his new secretary, who not only tracked down the stalker for her late at night, but even moved into the same building to be her protector. And at this moment, you're deleting 9,999 nostalgic photos. I was about to get married, but my boyfriend of 8 years, Lucas, was still in the dark. Recently, he has been focusing on his new secretary, Celine, and they have been chatting passionately. For Celine's birthday, he ordered a 10-layer cream cake, and at the party, they smeared cream everywhere, completely forgetting that I am severely allergic to cream. I was sent to the hospital, and when I woke up I agreed to the blind date and marriage arranged by my family. I just came back from the hospital and was using my key to open the door when my mother sent me dozens of wedding plans for me to choose from. As I was flipping through the pages, I stopped at the last message from my mom. She said if she had known that Lucas and I wouldn't be together for long, if he really wanted to marry me, why would he have waited 8 years? She also said the wedding would be in 3 days, and asked me to pack my bag slowly and not to rush. It turns out that everyone can see it clearly, but I am the only one who is still stuck in Lucas' empty promise. I sighed and sent a voice message to my mother. Mom, choose whichever one you think is good. I'm fine with either. I just want a simple wedding. I didn't notice when Lucas walked up behind me. When he heard the word wedding, he blurted out in surprise, "Wedding? What wedding?" He was about to peek at my phone, but I quickly put it away. He reached out to grab it, and then his phone rang. It was quiet at night, and I could clearly hear Celine's panicked voice on the other end of the phone. She said that when she went downstairs to buy something, she felt someone was following her. She was so scared that she couldn't get rid of the person even after walking around for several times. Lucas's face changed and he looked worried. He asked Celine to go to a bright place where there was someone on duty at the security booth. He asked her to stay there and he would be there soon. After saying that, he hung up the phone, put the wedding behind him, and rushed into the night without looking back, leaving me standing there alone. I remained calm, and after he left, I called my aunt to say goodbye. My parents moved out of town for work 10 years ago, and I have been living with my aunt ever since. Lucas lived next door to me, and that's how we met. Later, my aunt got married, sold her villa, and moved in with my uncle. I didn't want to disturb her new life, so I temporarily moved into Lucas's house, and I didn't expect that I would stay there for 8 years. When my Aunt Mina heard that I was getting married, she was very surprised. She thought I was going to get married to Lucas, and said it was time for me to settle down after 8 years. I pursed my lips and corrected her, saying that this was a blind date marriage and I didn't even know the other person. My aunt was silent for a while, then slowly asked me if I had made up my mind. She said that she felt that Lucas cared about me a lot, but she didn't know why he hadn't proposed to me, so she asked him. I smiled faintly and said no, Lucas and I are not in a formal relationship, and it has been unclear for 8 years. If I don't end it now, my youth will be gone. My aunt didn't expect that we had lived together for 8 years and still hadn't established our relationship, so she stopped trying to persuade me and said she supported my decision. Before going to bed, I set a 3-day countdown on my phone. The next day, I asked my mother to send some local specialties to my aunt to thank her for her care over the past 10 years and also to say goodbye. In the evening, a large truck of parcels finally arrived. I pointed the driver in the direction of my aunt's house, and unexpectedly I ran into Lucas downstairs, with Celine's delicate figure following closely behind him. They were each carrying a few bags of daily necessities bought from the supermarket, looking like a young couple moving into a new home. At this time, my aunt came down to greet me. She was about to speak when she saw this scene, but I interrupted her and said that the gift her mother gave her had arrived, and asked her to remember to check the shelf life and not let it go bad. I didn't even look at Lucas, but this time he took the initiative to explain that Celine's previous residence was not safe, so he found her a new place to live. He didn't know that my aunt also lived here, and he asked me why I bought so many things. I directed the driver to move things, and replied to him nonchalantly that he didn't need to tell me about his work. These were bought by my mother, and she bought a lot as she didn't know when she would be back. Seeing that I didn't misunderstand, Lucas was obviously relieved and said that the northern suburbs were not far away and I could tell him anytime if I wanted to come over. He doesn't know yet that I'm moving out completely, and I don't plan to tell him. The aunt was about to speak, but her face turned ugly when she saw Lucas taking good care of Celine. The four of us stood there awkwardly until Celine broke the silence with a tired look on her face. Lucas immediately asked the driver not to move, saying that they had little stuff and would use the elevator first. Seeing the bags of daily necessities he was carrying, I stepped aside to let them pass first. Lucas was a little surprised and hurried into the elevator. The moment the elevator door closed, I saw my former self in Celine. When my aunt just moved out, Lucas was also so attentive, running around to take care of me, smiling as he moved my things to his house, saying he was welcoming the future mistress. My aunt looked at the elevator, sighed regretfully, and asked me if I was sure I shouldn't let her ask Lucas. It would be a shame to break up because of a misunderstanding after knowing each other for such a long time. I shook my head and said no, there was no misunderstanding between him and me. He never let misunderstandings last overnight. No explanation was the answer. Lucas and Celine didn't have much stuff, so they could move it all in one trip. But after I delivered my stuff to my aunt and said goodbye, I couldn't see him downstairs. Out of courtesy to my old friend, I took out my cell phone and sent him a message asking him when he would be back. Soon he sent a voice message back, and when I opened it I heard Celine's sweet voice saying that Lucas was helping her fix the electrical wires and that no one had ever lived in the house, so there was a lot to clean up. So she asked me to go home first and not wait for them. I was just about to turn off my phone and call a taxi when she sent me another message, telling me not to think too much about it and that Lucas was just helping her out because he felt sorry for her being alone in the big city. Thinking of my parents who were far away, I swallowed my words and closed the chat interface. After getting in the taxi, I was staring out the window in a daze when Lucas called and asked me why I was so mean to Celine. He said that she was a subordinate and the company didn't arrange accommodation for her, so it was normal for him to help her. He also said that I turned my face away at the birthday party, said I was not feeling well and wanted to leave, and now I'm causing trouble again. I could hear Celine sobbing softly over the phone. She was completely different from the sweet and innocent girl Lucas described to me. I took a deep breath, understanding her intention, but too tired to argue. I just said that he was right and it was my fault. I just asked and told him not to worry because I had already arrived home home and was not waiting for him. My cold response made Lucas' questioning tone choke in his throat. When the car arrived at the community, I hung up the phone. After getting off the car, I found that Lucas' work group was bombarded with messages. I opened them and saw 99 plus unread messages. The top one was a photo sent by Celine of Lucas helping her fix the wires and water pipes. She also asked if anyone had such a caring boss who was willing to dedicate his life to the company, and asked if he could sign a lifetime contract. The comments from the employees below were all full of envy and praise, saying they had never seen the boss like this before. Didn't the cleaning lady say he had mysophobia? They also said the boss looked so handsome without a suit and they wanted to dream of becoming Mrs. Haskins in the future. Before Celine came, I did all these things for Lucas without asking for anything in return. When she came and took over my work, I forgot to leave the group. After reading the group messages, I deleted the records and left the group. Now that I have decided to move on, seeing them like this is not as painful as I thought. I remember when I just graduated and joined the company, Lucas always shared clips of my work in the group chat, secretly took pictures of me making coffee and updating my schedule, and everyone in the office knew that he liked me. With his love, daily work became sweet and his care brought vitality to the boring work group. But everything changed when Celine came. She took over all my work, and Lucas didn't allow me to be mentioned in the group chat. He couldn't hide his love for her, either overtly or covertly. A colleague who was close to me said that Celine was not as capable as me, so Lucas directly deducted her bonus for the whole year. Later, I secretly transferred 10,000 yuan to her, fearing that she would resign impulsively. Returning to the place where I had lived for 8 years but never really belonged to me, I began to pack my things and my eyes fell on a thick photo album filled with memories of the past 10 years. I sat on the bed and opened the album, reading page by page. Each photo represents a gift from Lucas. 8 years ago, he said he would give me 9,999 surprises before we walked into the marriage hall together, hoping to win my heart with his sincerity and make me willing to be his wife. This photo album that was customized to hold 9,999 photos now has only one blank page left, but in the end it was all in vain. I took the album downstairs, found a quiet and open place, and lit it with a match. I watched the photos burn one by one, turning into ashes, burying my life for the past 8 years. Lucas came and saw me standing next to the flames, my face pale. He rushed over and pushed me away, trying to save something, but the fire was too fierce, and he reached in and his hand was burned red in a few seconds. He stamped his feet angrily, trying to put out the flames that were engulfing the photos, and shouted, "Are you crazy? You have ruined all these memories." I struggled to stand up and brushed off the ashes on my pajamas. The flames warmed my face, but I said in a cold voice, "It's okay." I opened the album and saw a bug, maybe a cockroach, so I burned it. Seeing how calm I was, Lucas realized that he might have overreacted. He took a deep breath and asked in a gentle tone if I was okay. He also said sorry that he was too excited. He had collected these photos for 10 years and they were going to be shared at the wedding, so why did they burn them? He also said that if there were any bugs, I could wait for him to come back or send a message and he would deal with them. I didn't look at him. The man in front of me was no longer the boy who once promised to protect me forever. I said, "You've been busy with work for a long time. I don't want to bother you with such a small matter." He stood beside me, looking at the ashes sadly. This scene was so ironic. He had ruined our 10-year relationship for another woman, and now he was pretending to still care. I turned around and walked back, but he took my indifference as a sign of anger and pulled me into his arms. The air was filled with the sweet smell of black opium perfume, which made me sneeze continuously, but he didn't let go, as if he was full of regret. He gently asked me if I was feeling unwell, and said sorry for ignoring me recently, and that he would take those photos again and double the number once things were stable. If I had heard this before, I might have softened my heart. But after going to the hospital, I knew that he had forgotten my severe allergy for another woman, and I couldn't pretend anymore and didn't want to have anything to do with him anymore. He finally let me go, and I broke free resolutely, saying, "No need to apologize. If you really want to make it up to me, give me a proper birthday party. I always miss my birthday celebrations because of my allergy to butter. Anyway, I'm leaving soon, so I want him to be with me for at least one birthday." I didn't expect that such a simple request from me would make him panic. He nodded, but before he could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and hurriedly explained, "I have urgent work to do. Don't wait for me tonight. I promise to make it up to you." As he spoke, he was already backing away, and after he finished speaking, he ran several meters away. In fact, I knew that it was Celine's exclusive ringtone, but I didn't expose his lie. The next morning, someone came to decorate the party, and Celine came too, saying she designed the decorations and came to supervise. But in the evening, I found that the decorations were a simplified version of her birthday party. After the workers left, she came over proudly and asked me what I thought and whether it was to my taste. I looked at her. My eyes fell on the necklace she was wearing, which was the one I lost. I narrowed my eyes and said coldly, "Second-hand decoration and second-hand person. It suits you very well." Celine seemed offended by this, and without saying anything, she glanced to the side, picked up a crystal ornament and smashed it to the ground. A piece of the shard cut her foot, and she began to cry pitifully. Before I could react, Lucas rushed over, slapped me hard, and yelled, "Stop throwing a tantrum. Celine took time off to help you with the party, and this is how you repay her? You don't like to do it yourself." After saying that, he picked up Celine and rushed out. I sat alone in the lifeless room, surrounded by a suffocating silence. The next morning, no one showed up to the party, which wasn't surprising since Lucas was my only friend in the past 10 years. When the cake arrived, I opened the box, had a small piece for myself, put a candle in it, closed my eyes, and made a simple wish: may we never meet again. Because of my allergies, I couldn't even eat cake. When the countdown on my phone ended, I picked up my suitcase and left without looking back. On the way to the airport, I sent Lucas one last message: "That's it. No need to contact me anymore. It's not even a breakup. It's just a simple end to my 10 years of life." I turned off my phone before boarding the plane, and he was already calling me like crazy.